New Mutants. New Mutants. This thing happened. I'm having to do this video twice because I needed to marinate on what I just watched. I forgot most of the movie right after I watched it. I can handle a bad movie. I can handle bad movies. Just don't give me a boring one. You know, a movie that's bad for the acting, or bad for the CGI, or bad for whatever reason, I can handle that. Just, man. I spent more time playing with my phone than I actually spent engaged in the movie. It was so bland. I feel cheated because I paid for it. It was, in a word, predictable. 2, boring. 3, telegraph. All of the characters in the movie should be adults. They should be adults. It makes sense. But for whatever reason, Disney, Fox, whoever owns the property, they have to like run it through a Party of 5 or Dawson's Creek filter. It has to be CW to death. Everything has to look like it came from the WB. I wouldn't mind if they took a script from Dallas or the A-Team or Starsky and Hutch and swapped for Marvel characters. At least it wouldn't be that lame, angsty teenager crap from the late 90s. Okay? This was like Family Dollar bargain bin X-Men. It was bad. It was stupid. And it was annoying at how bad it actually was, because there's no reason for that. There's no reason it should be that bad. Especially if, like, Disney and Fox, like, they own all the properties. And I would totally understand if this is a one-off and they're never going to do another character again, or never have those people, those characters in any of the X-Men. Talking about this the other night with a coworker, how Deadpool 2, they had the rights to the characters and they just pulled them out, like, Shatterstar, and then he immediately gets killed, and that was like a big joke. Like, I would get that, totally understand if they did that, but all these kids, they should be in their 20s. They're not perpetually 16. It seems that's how Disney sees all of their properties, as everyone's perpetually 16 and therefore constantly marketable. And the only people that are allowed to be adults are like Magneto, Xavier, and Wolverine, because those are the big adults in this series. Whatever. But of course we got the First Class and all that crap, and we don't need another First Class. Okay? I'm not familiar with these characters, and I'm not gonna be. All I really know about these characters is that they should be over 25. Cannonball and Sunspot were members of like extended X-Men teams, or X-Force, X-Factor, X something. Magic and Lockheed, the little blue critter that Magic's got, Blue Dragon. They're members of Excalibur, with Captain Britain and what was that? The spiky red suited mullet Phoenix. Excuse me. Wolfsbane. I've never heard of Wolfsbane before. Wolfsbane's a character. Mirage is the main character for the movie. She seems like she was created specifically for this movie. you know, a lot of what I'm explaining is what I got from a comic book my brother gave me in the 90s. I don't care about these characters. This movie didn't make me care anything about these characters. They could exist or not exist. None of them impact the greater MCU. This movie did not pull me in and make me care. I'm apathetic to these people. I refuse to research them any further than a few sentences on Wikipedia. I'm uninterested. I'm apathetic. They one tree hilled some comic book characters. They did. It's like they're, you know, again, Dawson's Creek presents Marvel. So the main character is Mirage, and right off, this took me at least 24 hours to figure it out. It's my big gripe for the movie. It felt like they were pandering, trying to be inclusive, but every time they try to be inclusive on anything, they show their racism, and it felt like Kibblesmith was involved in this. It really did. Like, was he involved? I didn't care enough to watch the credits. There wasn't even an after credit scene. I didn't care enough to find out. It was like, okay, first credits, click, done. Mirage is the main character. She's Native American, and she just happens to live on a reservation, and her entire tribe was wiped out by some mysterious smoke bear monster. How racist is that? Just once, I would like to see Hollywood portray a Native American in anything as living in a suburb. I'd like to see a Native American person living in a rural area, the inner city, something else other than tribal land. Because they always say, like every Native American and every other property on the planet that Hollywood has ever produced is constantly on the weird Navajo reservation. What was the movie? Val Kilmer was in Thunderheart or something like that. Every Native American who is ever portrayed in anything Hollywood is either a code talker from World War II or lives in the middle of the desert and is a Navajo tribe member. Okay, the closest thing that would Longmire. We recently finished Longmire. That was pretty cool, but they still did it. Yeah, these natives live on a tribal land, and it's in the middle of the desert, even though they're supposed to be in Montana. That bugs me. It's 2020. Like, we just found out that half of Oklahoma is still considered tribal land. Shawnee is tribal land. Half of Tulsa is tribal land. Hollywood needs to quit segregating natives. Bunch of racist pricks. Anyway, so the smoke bear monster kills her family. Mirage wakes up in a hospital where nothing is as it seems. Big surprise. The kids are locked in with one adult. The kids are all distant until they come together and fight the big bad guy, who isn't the big bad guy. The big bad guy turns out to be themselves. They conquer their fear in the end, and that's it. Nothing more. That's it. There isn't enough for a sequel. The CGI was okay. Modern technology, we can manifest all kinds of illusions and blasphemies and That's all you could. That's about all you could say about it. Was cool CGI and stuff. That's it. Everybody has a tragic past, like you do. Magic is Russian and can teleport and has like a psionic sword or something. Her tragic past is that she's Russian. Mirage can manifest nightmares and killed her whole tribe. It's super racist. Sunspot is a more angsty Brazilian Human Torch who toasted his girlfriend. Cannonball is from Tennessee or Kentucky. One of them, he worked in a coal mine and killed his dad in a cave-in. What else? Wolfsbane is Scottish and she was tortured by a priest for being a witch. He got it wrong. She's a werewolf. But she's a lesbian with Mirage. And this was another thing that was so incredibly telegraphed. I mean, it was like an approaching... It was an approaching plane on a flight line on a clear day. There was a scene. Wolfsbane is watching Buffy. There's a scene where it's shot from behind her looking at a TV, and they lingered on this scene from Buffy when Willow and her love interest kissed. I watched as much Buffy as the next guy who didn't care about Buffy, but I knew about that because people kept talking about it. Like, shut up about this stupid show. The scene lingered longer than it was really necessary, and right when that happened, it made me think. They broke one of the big rules of cinema. You never reference another or a better property in your crappy movie. If I made and I shouldn't reference this one because it's breaking the same rule. If I were to make a fan film in the style of the Stone Gremlin folks, I wouldn't reference Walking Dead or World War Z, something that had higher production value, because that's their shtick, is shot on VHS. And that's I'm more interested in watching Buffy now, because, well, actually no, I'm not, because I still don't care about Buffy. But yeah, why would you telegraph it like that? That's exactly what they did. They lingered on this scene from Buffy and telegraphed this whole lesbian scene later on in the movie. Like, you just knew it was coming. It was like that shoehorned character in the middle of a Netflix movie. Like, this doesn't make sense for these characters, nor does it make sense for the story. They're just gonna shove this rainbow LGBT crowd, alphabet character, in the middle of this property, and it makes it was kind of played for laughs in Cobra Kai. That one scene, that was kind of funny, but this. If I were a teenage lesbian, I would be offended at the amount of pandering. The just poor pandering that went on. I didn't like Jarhead and Jarhead 2 for the same reason. The overt pandering and garbage script, but that's another video. Magic is arguably more powerful than Mirage, but Magic is a white blonde girl, so we can't have that. I'm not researching these characters. Marvel hasn't made anything worth reading in the last 10 years. I'm completely uninterested. I typed all this out, but I'm just now realizing that I repeated things because there's nothing to talk about. I'm having to fill this time with hums and haws, and I'm having to reference this I'm having to fill the time by referencing other properties, like this movie did. If you want a better one-off movie, and I suggest it, it's a 90s one-off Fox movie called Generation X. I'm sure it's on YouTube for free. It's a much better movie. I got hustled, man. I paid for this stupid thing. Origin stories are fun, but we don't need another new origin story. We got 2 X-Men origin movies and 2 Wolverine movies, and one was horrible. Both of them kind of were. We got more. We got 26 Avenger movies. The movie was marketed as a horror movie, but it was supposed to be X-Men, but directed by Del Toro. It's gonna be scary, and just in time for Halloween last year and the year before that, and maybe this year. Well, after this year. Okay, after Halloween this year. They kept pushing it back, and by the time you announce something and like 4 years later you finally release the movie, no one cares. Nobody's gonna go see it in the movie theater, mainly because you announce the property is happening, and then people can just Google the show and okay, this character does that, this character does that. Now I'm bored and I don't care anymore. Let's go watch another movie. I expected like a Ra's al Ghul style, like the Ra's al Ghul season of Gotham. How that was real, creepy and zany, and that was good horror aspects from the comic book aspect. Or from the... I can't think of things to say. My brain is mush. I can't think of anything else about this movie. It was so static. It was white noise. The trailer was scarier, but we got like some really cool CG critters, and which allowed for some comedy. It was oatmeal. It was beige. This movie was white rice. There's no flavor. It was a Teenage Mutant Ninja snooze fest.